Joan, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and your farm operation, your family and your farm?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Happy to spend this evening with you and share a beef recipe appetizer. Yeah, Steve and I live on a farm in northeast Nebraska. We've been married for almost 40 years, and we bought our farm from his uncle. That means this farm has been in the Ruskamp family for over 100 years. In Nebraska, we have the soil and the climate to grow row crops like corn and soybeans really well. And so that is what we do. Our main focus, though, is on a finishing phase of cattle. And what that means is we buy cattle from places that grow grass really well. We bring them to our farm where we have grains as an added ingredient, and we put them in that finishing phase before they become beef. I'm a veterinary technician by degree, and so it fits in nicely with the animal and healthcare. We also raise 5 children. They're adults now. 4 of them are married, and they're kind of spread out all over the country. And they have blessed us with 8 grandchildren.
Wow. So you're telling me there's really hope for my 4 kids.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing. That is wonderful. Okay. So one of the things I know about my teenage boys is that they're going to eat all the things, and they don't always care what it is, but I feel like these beef pinwheels will be delicious and nutritious. So can you tell us what we need to get together for beef pinwheels?
I found this recipe on the Beef It's What's for Dinner website. And you can go to CommonGround for lots of recipes, but when it comes to just beef, it's a great resource for everything beef. And in this recipe, you're going to use pre-made roast beef. Hormel is one particular company that makes it, but there's quite a few out there. And in the recipe, it says 16 to 24 ounces. That's a pretty wide variety to put on your pinwheel. And so this one is 17, so it's somewhere in between. But it gives you some play with how much beef you want. You can also use leftover roast. If you make a pot roast for your family and you have leftover roast, cut that up into small sections, and you really want to flake it apart so it's not chunky. Then you're going to stir in some Asiago cheese. I also learned that if you buy it shredded, it's more fine than if you shred it yourself. And so just the difference in if you buy a wedge versus sliced. You're going to need puff pastry, and puff pastry is not like the pie shell. You know, we've all maybe cheated and bought a box of the pie shells to quick throw a pie together. This is puff pastry, so make sure you get the right one. It makes croissants, things like that. And I added a little bit of garlic salt because I like the flavor of garlic. I like a little more salt. It's not in the recipe, but I choose to add it.
I firmly believe you measure garlic with your heart. So I say add it.
Yep. And this pastry sheet is really big, but what you do is cut it so that it measures about 4 by 10 inches. So it's a long, narrow rectangle. And then you're going to take the mixture of your roast beef, the Asiago cheese, and then, of course, my garlic salt. And you're going to put it on the pastry sheet. You want to make sure you stay a ½ inch away from the edge closest to you, and you just kind of spread it apart. When I was preparing my sample to show later, I got a little overzealous with the beef. And so you can't see the dough as well. So if you really want to see that pinwheel, you're not going to want to put quite as much beef. You want to really spread it out with your fingers. Kids love doing this kind of thing, right? Just getting in there and spreading that all out. But a fork actually really helps. It's about 3/8 of a cup when you measure the whole amount, like a 17-ounce serving. And then buy some green onions and cut the tops in half and then slice them in real thin slices. You just lay them on your roast beef in little layers here. And roast beef is kind of one of the go-to comfort foods for our family and a lot of families. I grew up eating pot roast. Sunday pot roast was pretty common. And then you're going to just pick up that edge away from you and flip it over and over, and then kind of press down so that seam is in there. You'll see I have a little flour. If it doesn't want to stay together, you can put a little bit of water along that seam to really make that seam stay there. I've used a bread knife or a very sharp paring knife also works really well because you're slicing through roast beef, right?
Mhm.
And you're gonna take your fingers and put that knife between two of them. This is not a job I would give a child. I think this is something mom needs to do. But you're just gonna go along and you kind of hold that together as you're slicing. And I have a little piece there. And you just kind of go along and you cut the pinwheels. And then you're gonna lay them on parchment paper. And there's 4 of these like log shapes, I guess you'd say, that you're gonna make. And so there will be plenty of pinwheels for everybody. And as you go along, you just cut and slice.
So before you got there, I have a question for you. So when I have bought puff pastry in the past, it's usually like in the frozen section. Do you need to defrost it before I put it out on that cutting board? Or kind of get it to room temperature?
This pastry was in the refrigerated section, kind of.
Oh,
You can
okay.
look by yogurt or butter, or it depends on what store you shop at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the people who work there don't always know either what you're looking for, because a lot of them want to take you to pie pastry.
Right.
Because I think so many people buy the pie pastry when they
So
go
we're definitely
to the
looking for puff pastry. Puff.
Yes.
If you've watched the Great British Bake Off, they say rough puff, but we're just going to buy it in the store.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is that you made the green onions, you sliced them kind of like julienne, like long, not like the little circles.
Right. Okay. And then as you're cutting them, they're going to be cut into shorter pieces, right?
All right.
And so I'm just placing, yep.
No, I was going to ask you, while you're cutting, I can imagine that you're kind of picky about your beef if you are finishing off cattle. Thank you for allowing us to buy it pre-made in the store. That's really helpful. But can you tell us a little bit about, I mean, you've said you bring these animals to your farm. How do you care for them? I think as a mom, we hear this kind of stuff about animal welfare out in the world, and I don't really know what it means. So I didn't actually know that you were a vet tech, even though I've talked to you before, Joan. I didn't know that. And so tell us a little bit how you make sure your animals are okay.
I think the easiest way to think of it would be comfort care. A lot of us are familiar with, on the human side, comfort care, when we want to make sure people are comfortable. As a mom, I think we want to make sure our kids are comfortable. And how do we do that? The way we feed them, the way we nourish them, body, mind, and spirit. Well, when it comes to cattle, they have 4 basic needs. They're pretty amazing creatures. They need fresh water. They need a good diet. They need the ability to socialize. And they like to be able to lay down and rest.
They really are like teenage boys.
They are, yes. They're like a lot of us, right? And you can offer those comforts anywhere, whether they're on a big pasture eating grass or when they're in a feedlot like ours on dirt. They're very basic needs that, and we use things like research to help drive us, a nutritionist that works with this, a veterinary team. We use all of these people and the research that continues to evolve and how to best meet all those needs. And part of that is using what we grow best where we live. People who grow grass really well can raise that calf up and keep raising a calf every year. And then that calf can come to our farm where we grow grain really well and feed and provide that really healthy, tasty beef that we love.
I love it. That's so nice. I mean, I think because I keep a cat alive and children, so I don't really know, thinking about how you care for animals, it's helpful to relate the idea of animal welfare to comfort care. Like, what do they need to be comfortable? And those ideas of, fresh water and socialization and rest and a good diet. That's really helpful to just think about, okay, I can trust that the animals that I'm eating beforehand were well cared for, and knowing that you've got this team of people that are really helping them.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
And our goal here is to help them thrive. For people who have livestock, it's not about allowing them to just survive from day to day. We want them to thrive every day. And so like when we were raising our kids and now our grandchildren, it's not enough to be okay. We want you to be great. And so that's kind of the theory behind everything we do in bringing animals up for food use. We want them to be great.
That's really good to know. That's just, yeah, it's just really helpful to think about. It's not just about raising them up. It's making them thrive in the way that you care for them. That's really, really helpful. So as thriving as they are, I really do love the taste of them in my little mouth. So as you've put this beef pinwheels on your parchment paper, how long, we put them in the oven and for how long?
Yep. The recipe calls for 400. I have better luck at 375, or they get a little more done underneath. And so it might just be my oven. And I would go 17 minutes at that temperature, or you can maybe go 15 at 400. You might have to try one or two first and see how you like it. But yeah, I have these ready to go, and I'm going to go ahead and pop them in my oven. So later tonight, we can see how these compare to the other ones I made.
Oh yeah, let's see the finished delicious product. I want to see what that looks like.
Yes, because I'm going to show you that I did get overzealous with my beef. You can hardly see the pastry in the pinwheel. But I think the other thing I've noticed with my grandchildren is they love dipping. They're always dipping their food in everything. And I don't have the recipes right in front of everyone tonight, but if you know how to make a honey mustard sauce, you could make a honey mustard sauce and maybe put a little bit on. You could get a squirt bottle and make a nice little design if you wanted.
Oh, you're fancy.
Also, yeah, cranberries. There's flavors that go together and bring out more flavor, right? And so we know mustard and beef, cranberry. And so you can have fun with the holidays and maybe drizzle a little bit of cranberry sauce too, but you can have fun with them. You can maybe have a sauce bar and let people choose what sauce they want to.
Oh, that's fun. I never thought about cranberry because I don't know about y'all's houses, but the first condiment happening in my house is always ranch. So right. I like expanding the palettes a little bit. So
you can just set that ranch bottle right next to it.
Oh, I mean, I can, but I like the idea of giving them some variety. A sauce bar sounds really fun. Oh, Joan, thank you so much. That looks so delicious. I'm excited to try this recipe. And thank you for the tips, not to get overzealous with the beef. That's really good to know. And some of those rolling techniques. So thank you for sharing about your farm. Don't forget, friends, if you've got questions. Oh, when do you use the Asiago while we're still on this recipe?
Okay, you stir it in with your roast beef right away. And so first you break the roast beef into small pieces and really break it apart with a couple of forks. Stir in that Asiago, and if you want to add any other seasoning like garlic salt, about a half a teaspoon, then you're gonna mix all that together and then put that on your pastry.